everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're here with CEO of CemAir, Miles van der Molen, and we're going to be talking about the domestic travel sector. Thanks so much for joining us today, Miles.
Morning, Sarah. Nice to be on your show again.
Great. So it's been a very turbulent time in the industry globally, and we've seen a huge amount of changes on the domestic front, especially in the last month or so. So how is CemAir adapting to the current situation, which is seeing a lot of players entering and exiting the market? And have you adjusted your schedules at all in line with the President's announcement this week of the lifting of the Gauteng travel ban?
It's an extremely dynamic environment, and it's difficult to plan for anything in a market that changes so fast. I think the changes in South Africa probably exceed what's been seen in most other parts of the world. It's been pretty extreme. In our last conversations, we did discuss how the domestic market was in an unsustainable position even before COVID. We could see a lot of airlines going into distress, and COVID has obviously made that so much worse. We saw very aggressive pricing, very large amounts of capacity being flown, and an adjustment was required. And I think that's what we're seeing now. This fourth wave, and again the travel restrictions, although the travel restrictions on paper didn't seem so severe, it had a very marked impact on the overall market. We saw a very strong rollback as Gauteng was sort of essential travel only and business travel only. So with the easing of the restrictions, what we did see is the market come back a lot faster than we have after in the first restrictions. When they were eased, the market was very slow to return. This has been certainly a far more speedy recovery, but it's still early days. It's obviously only day 5, and there may be all sorts of bumps in the road ahead. We have added a lot of capacity, particularly to Cape Town. That seems to be a route where there's a shortage. We have also looked to increase our network, so we're flying Joburg to PE from today. In fact, today's our first flight, and from next Wednesday we're going to be flying between Cape Town and Durban. Those are all routes where we see a shortage of capacity in the current market.
It's so interesting because a few months ago Joburg Cape Town was so oversubscribed, so it's as you said, such a fluid situation, and it's great to see you guys reacting, a few days after the announcements have been made. Great. Well, good luck with the new flight too.
Thank you. Yeah, with Comair's rollback and Mango suspending flights, that was the overcapacity on that Cape Town sector. But Comair had a lot of equipment flying, a lot of capacity, so it's just drove the market on its own.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so yes, it'll be interesting to chat to you in a month's time when sort of Comair and Kalula come back and we see where we all stand again. But anyway, so there's been a lot of news about the new SAA, which is expecting to be starting up in the next week or two, and they haven't announced official routes, but they've said that they want to start with domestic and regional routes. You've talked about unsustainable pricing at the moment. What do you think SAA coming back into the market is going to do if this happens in the next few weeks?
Again, very hard to predict. SAA hasn't for a long time been commercially grounded. Its decisions have largely been politically driven. So we don't know where they intend to fly to. They will have a very limited fleet in the beginning, but the whole thing is very opaque. So there's a lot of talk, but no real direction as yet. So we're adopting a bit of a wait and see attitude. I think the entry back into the market certainly will have a lot of challenges. I know the strategic equity partner conversation is still ongoing and not without its problems. The customer base will have to be convinced that that it's worth supporting. So yeah, certainly an interesting time ahead for them.
Sure. Yeah, I think people are all waiting, especially the travel trade, to hear about those refunds. It's been very, very silent on that front. But,
a lot of money for a long time. Yeah, so it's interesting that.
So the Air Services Licence Council, we've chatted about it a few times and written a few articles, and it's been disbanded now for 4 months. So maybe you could talk to our readers about how this impacts South Africa's economy when airlines can't apply for traffic rights.
Well, if you consider that effectively almost all of major players from the of the older established airlines are not operating. It's really only Airlink that has any that has a market presence at the moment. That leaves all the frequencies that were in the hands of SA Express, SAA, Mango, and CemAir unutilized and cannot be allocated to anybody else. It has really choked the market very badly. Even towards the end of the tenure of the last council, few decisions were made. So although they haven't been there for 4 months, really no decisions have been made in probably 7 months that advance the international operations. So it's a huge constriction and there's no end in sight. And so, yeah, frustration. We do ask very frequently what the way forward is, but we just get told, you know, it's in process and, you know, wait. So, yeah, so it's quite it is damaging. You know, there's a lot of travel opportunities. You know, Zanzibar is one of the ones we've discussed before. Popular tourist destination, was open to South Africans, where other countries were so restricted. But, you know, just there's no opportunity. Everybody's hands are tied.
So certainly our readers are very anxious to have news of any new flights to Zanzibar. Assuming that a new council was appointed and you were able to apply and be approved for traffic lights, would that be a route that you would be interested in taking on?
Definitely, we'll certainly have a look at Zanzibar. Even if the council is appointed tomorrow, realistically it would be some months before the route was actually available to be flown by us, because there's a lot of processes that have to take place. But certainly by December, service could be reintroduced quite easily, and it proved over the years to be a very viable route.
Well, we have fingers crossed that something happens on that front, and thank you for talking to us about it, because it's a big issue, and I think it's, you know, quite often swept under the carpet. So thank you for your openness in that regard.
Yeah. Another route that will probably be on the list for everybody is Mauritius, as it opens.
Yeah.
Another very popular route. And again, with Air Mauritius and its troubles and the carriers from the South African side, although CemAir did manage to get 2 frequencies a week allocated late last year, but it was a lot of volume on the route, and again, almost no options.
So is that another route that would be interesting for you?
Yes, we'd look at it's very much in the range of the aircraft that we operate. So if it was available, we certainly would have a go at it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think the agents are all like, there may be a solution for Zanzibar and for Mauritius, very, very much loved islands for South African travelers. Okay, well, thank you, Miles. It's been lovely to chat to you, and thank you for joining us again on a Travel News webcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Sarah.